If we're optimistic, we could say this moment sets the scene for possible talks, says Devin Stewart, Senior Program Director at the Carnegie Council for Ethics in International Affairs. China was the rogue state of the 1960s, with an unpredictable and potentially irrational strongman at the helm. Mao was desperate to maintain the revolutionary fervor that brought him to power. If Kim Jong-un and his father before him have been characterized and caricatured as unhinged madmen, consider what Mao said in 1957, "I'm not afraid of nuclear war. There are 2.7 billion people in the world, it doesn't matter if some are killed. China has a population of 600 million, even if half of them are killed, there are still 300 million people left." That thinking dominated the 60s, particularly in the Kennedy administration, says Yevgen Sodin, a Gates scholar at Cambridge University. Kennedy had a huge fear of the Chinese nuclear program and sometimes used pretty racist language as well. He believed that it was a unique peril for China to get the bomb. More than half a century later, President Trump warned in his first speech at the UN General Assembly that the scourge of our planet is a group of rogue regimes, and threatened to totally destroy North Korea if necessary. President Trump has frequently invoked the possibility of a preventive military strike against Pyongyang. But many officials, including President Trump's own former advisor Steve Bannon, have concluded there's no military solution to North Korea. Sodin suggests that the outcome in the case of China may offer lessons and maybe even reasons for optimism when it comes to North Korea. We don't know if this is what led to it, but around the same time China becomes a nuclear power, it becomes more interested in improving its relationship with the United States, says Sodin. China was eventually accepted as a legitimate nuclear power, and while major concerns remain about its proliferation controls, it has been a party to the Non-Proliferation Treaty since the mid-1990s. Could the world live with a nuclear North Korea? Will North Korea come to the negotiating table once it has achieved what it set out to achieve, a nuclear deterrent against the United States? It's clear that Kim desires a powerful deterrent against what he calls the protracted nuclear threats of the U.S. imperialists. His language parrots Mao's proclamations and justifications for China's nuclear program. But some analysts believe Kim Jong-un may not be deterrable, in the sense that he can be relied on to act rationally in his nation's interests. More than half of North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile tests have occurred since he succeeded his father in 2011. His political purges and executions may have solidified his grip, but under his watch, North Korea has become even more isolated from the international community. That's the big question mark, says the Carnegie Council's Devin Stewart. If North Korea is so incredibly weak and unstable, and it's a cult of personality, it's a dynasty that worships this idea of self-reliance. Do they operate by the same rules of international relations? Evan Osnos has written extensively about the North Korea nuclear situation and the mythology surrounding the Kim dynasty and its culture of self-reliance, or juche. He recently interviewed a North Korean defector named Ri Jong-ho, who makes a different comparison. Osnos wrote in The New Yorker, Yevgen Sodin of Cambridge University points out another variable that makes the China analogy less than perfect. Donald Trump. There's a psychological element, he says, that lies at the root of the Korea problem that is amplified by the temperament of the U.S. president. There's little evidence that President Trump is listening to the more moderate voices in his administration, and after the most recent ICBM test, his ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, echoed her boss's language, stating, "If war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed." It's hard for us to accept a country that's so blatantly aggressive with its rhetoric, says Sodin. It would be uniquely difficult for President Trump to accept that this country, with this standoffish leader, can credibly threaten the United States. But experts agree on one thing: increasingly, it can.